the reality is the media is just flat out wrong. And unfortunately, a lot of realtors out there are so focused on getting business that they don't really understand the market. And their ignorance is not really helping you. You guys need to know exactly what's happening in the market so you can make smart real estate decisions. And guys, what I'm about to share with you could save you or make you thousands of dollars if you just understand the simple things that we're going to go over in this video. See, the reality is as much as realtors practice in their business and they might know the market, but how do you actually articulate that to you guys as buyers and sellers so that you can be in a position of power, knowing what's happening in the market, how it impacts you, and what to do about it? Guys, as a seller, this absolutely could make or break you making thousands of dollars on the sale of your home. And as a buyer, guys, the things I'm going to share with you is going to enable you to negotiate on your behalf all that much more. And then to have a high-level professional right alongside you as you're navigating this market, when you know what's actually happening, that, my friends, is how you succeed in today's real estate market. And with it ever so changing from month to month to quarter, you need to know what to look out for and when, so that, again, you guys can be in a position of power. And the reality is there's not really great information out there. Again, the media is lying to you. They're giving you clickbaity headlines in a lot of times articles that don't really actually tell the full story. And again, realtors are generally posting about their latest accomplishments or focus on getting business. And guys, it's not their fault that they don't know this stuff. Because the reality is in our industry, you have to go out and claw your way into finding this type of information that's actual, real-time, factual data and market trends. And then again, to know that and then be able to articulate it to you as a buyer and seller are just completely different things. And so what I'm going to share with you guys today is a Denver real estate market update, but we're going to do it in a way that enables you guys to know exactly what to do with this information to put you, again, like I said, in a position of power. So let's get on to it. As you guys are dreaming big, selling, buying homes, I want to show you the Denver real estate market update. And we're going to start with this report here. And we're going to dive right in. If you guys have questions as we're going through this, let me know. Only 37% of active homes have experienced a price reduction, a figure that continues to decline, with 22% of properties selling above the original asking price and 20% at close price. Inventory climbs above 8,500 as both new listings and under contract experience big weeks, while days on market shrinks to an average of 42. See, that's the thing, guys. I'm telling you the truth of what's actually happening in this market, but did any of that make sense? Like, when you read that, do you automatically know, okay, here's what's happening with the market and here's what to do about it? Like, no, you don't, likely, right? Maybe some of you have been on my videos before because we do a weekly update every Wednesday, and I've already explained this to you guys. Or maybe you're just savvy and you've been able to kind of sift through the articles and start to understand how this game works. But for most of us, we read this and say, what the hell did this guy just say? Well, stick around. I'm going to explain exactly what this means for you, so that you could be a position of power as you're buying and selling a home here in Denver, Colorado. We're going to come back to that though, as I want to get through this quick update before we kind of pick this apart. Strong buyer activity. Buyer showings continued to climb last week, nearly matching the busiest levels that we've seen in 2021 and 22. Oh my goodness, guys, with a record of 28,000 showings in a week. If you can see this little line here, this is where we're at in terms of showing activity. And these were historically two of the highest buying activity markets we've ever been in. And we're right here. Absolutely wild. These are the past 3 years. And here we are with buyer demand. So that's telling me, guys, there is a ton of buyer demand. This is going to be important for you sellers here when we pick this apart. But to the average seller, it may feel slow. Why? So why did I just say buyer activity's here, and that's great for sellers, but it might feel slow? Well, in 2022, inventory hovered at only 1,800 homes. So while we were seeing this historic buyer activity, We also saw historic low inventory rates, yet we saw 30. So they had 30,000 showings, but only 1,800 homes for sale. A frenzy fueled by low interest rates. Sellers were practically swatting offers away like flies, while it seemed like a boon that pace stemmed from unsustainable fiscal policy and rapid appreciation, an unhealthy period of financial gluttony. Today, the market is healthy and buyer interest is strong, but seller frustration can arise at how slow showings feel to the individual seller. Currently, 29,000 showings are spread across 8,500 homes. Let's pause for a second. In 2022, we had more showings, 30,000 showings in a week. And that was across 1,800 homes. Now we have nearly the same amount of showings, but we have almost 6 times the homes available at 8,500. That equates to just 3.4 showings per home per week, which is down from 16 showings per home per week in 2022. Absolutely crazy. Guys, we're going to pick this apart here shortly. Bear with me, but I'm making a point here, and you'll see why. While some sellers need to do a better job of preparing or pricing their homes, in most cases, the longer marketing time and fewer showings per week is just a return to normal, balanced, and appreciating market that requires strategy and patience. See, guys, let me tell you what they're not telling you, right? They might say, oh my gosh, it's the spring market. There's so many buyers out there. There's 29,000 showings. And you might say that and say, oh my gosh, that's a lot. And they said, yeah, in 2022, we had 30,000 showings. You're like, oh my gosh, we're back. This is a crazy market. Buyers, you might see this and say, oh my gosh, my time is up. I got to get into something before the market just completely goes AWOL in terms of price appreciation and I can't afford a home anymore. Well, guys, like that's all I'm saying. Like this is headline, this is clickbait, but it's not the full story. I'm showing you the full story, and I'm going to break down exactly what this means for you and how this impacts you and what's actually going on here. New listings, inventory, and contracts. Last week, we saw 1,500 new properties hit the market, the strongest seller activity since 2020. This surge pushed total inventory to 8,500 homes, the highest for this time of year in 13 years. In fact, over the past decade, only June of 2019 saw a higher count at 8,800 homes. See, guys, this is what, so this article, the media picks it up and says, we're seeing unprecedented inventory levels, and that's going to drive home prices down. Now, there's some truth into all headlines, right? But that not accompanied with the fact there's high buying activity, we've got to show you the full picture. For buyers, this is excellent news. More homes to choose from, extra time to make decisions, and greater negotiating levels. For sellers, it's more challenging as a buyer will tend to bargain harder, marketing times are longer, and offers can come in lower. But last week's results are an excellent example of overall market strength with 1,000 properties going under contract. This far outpacing the same period in 2023 and 2024 and running on par with the record-setting year of 2022. This is where we're at, guys. This orange line, that's how many homes are going under contract. Much more than we were seeing in the previous 2 years, almost similar to activity of 2022. Concluding thoughts, growing inventory and increasing seller competition are lengthening marketing times and gradually tempering price appreciation. Despite these shifts, buyer demand remains remarkably strong. 42% of properties are selling at or above the asking price, and only 37% of sellers have needed a price reduction. While broader economic concerns and the possibility of trade conflicts may cast a shadow, mortgage rates are still declining, continuing to bolster market activity. All right, guys, so that gives you an idea of where we're at, but your head's probably spinning. Let's make some clarity out of this. Buyers, I'm going to start with you. And actually, before I do that, let me just share something important here. One of the things that's going to put you in a position of power as a buyer or seller, so that as you're working with your realtor to negotiate the best terms for you, you're going to have some market insights so that you go into that conversation with your realtor that much more educated and that much more in a position of power of knowing, hey, am I able to push push this negotiation, and how far am I able to negotiate, and how far am I able to push that based on knowing what the market's doing and what position a seller might be in, or sellers, what position a buyer might be in, because ultimately you need to know your leverage points in order to get you the best terms possible when buying or selling a home. Guys, what's cool about working with a high-level professional is they're going to be able to not only educate you about this, but know this themselves, so that you guys are going to have a really, really, really effective negotiation when the time comes. I myself have been licensed here in Colorado for the last 10 years. Would love nothing more to serve you. All of my contact information is down below. You can schedule a call directly with me. You can text me, email me. I'm the one responding, not my team, me. You're going to get direct contact and access to myself. And from there, we could break down all of your goals to buying and selling real estate, accompanied with market insights, so that we can ultimately help guide you in making the best decision for yourself. So feel free to reach out. Would love to serve you. And my contact information is down below. So buyers and sellers, first thing we're going to share with you, the best time to buy and sell. Let's do that by showing you a different graph here, and then we'll pick apart the report that we just laid down for you guys. Okay. First things first, buyers, you guys are going to have the absolute most leverage at the latter end of the year, Q3 and Q4. And let me paint a picture for you. And guys, I'm not just telling you this because I think it, I'm telling you it because the data says so. And so what we're seeing here is 2024, 2023. On this left-hand side, this is the start of the year, and we're looking at average sales price per week. So this is the start of the year, January 1st, and then at the end, this is the last week of the year in December. And so what you can see is there's a ramp up of pricing appreciation that happens about spring of each year, and it kind of tapers off about May. You're going to see the peak of price in June, but that's reflective of all the homes that sold in May. And so really, hotspot for sellers, it's that February to April. And then for buyers, your best time to buy is going to be here, right? This is generally when you're going to find the best pricing, that you're going to have the most leverage in negotiation. In sellers, it's opposite for you. It's going to be that start of the year, Q1 and Q2, where your biggest selling season, the prime time for you guys to leverage in negotiations, is going to be springtime, really February to about beginning of May. Now, what I want to bring your attention to also is a list to contract days. This is really, really important for you buyers and sellers to understand. For buyers, as you can see, starting in January, ending in December, sellers have the longest days on market. And so you got to think about a seller's perspective, right? If you're negotiating with a seller who put a sign in the yard 70 days ago and they haven't gotten an offer, are they going to be more or less willing to negotiate with you? Okay. Now, if that same seller has been on the market for 70 days, but that's the average days on market, and they have a high level professional talking with them and letting them know, hey, look, I know it's been 70 days, but the reality is it's 70 days for everyone, right? And so for buyers, if you know in springtime, we're down at a 42 days on market and they've been on the market for 70 days, that's a lot different than a scenario where in January 1st, the average days on market is 70 days and they've been on the market 70 days. That's less leverage for you as a buyer. Whereas again, the heat of the market, 29 days on market, and they've been on for 70 days. That's your leverage, guys. That's your leverage. So understand days on market, because as a buyer, this is going to help you know if you're in a position of power and leverage to negotiate or not. Because guys, if the average days on market's 50 and they've only been on 30, well, you know that they've got 20 more days of run room before they're going to start really sweating and saying, okay, like, why are we still in the market? And then they get an offer and they're going to feel the pressure to accept that because they haven't had an offer in how many ever days. Okay. So buyers, please know your days on market. And for sellers, this is equally important for you, because if you understand your days on market and a buyer's trying to press you to negotiate, but you realize, look, days on market's 40 on average, and I've only been on the market for 20, then we could bring that back to buyer and say, hey, look, I understand you guys are trying to negotiate here for X amount of price. We've only been on the market for 20 days. That might feel long to you, but the average is 40 days. So we've still got 20 days to run before we're at the average days on market. So super, super important to understand that. Next up for buyers is we want to look at concessions by week. Now, concessions are essentially a seller paying your closing costs, or the seller giving you a credit to buy down your rate, or the seller giving you a credit in general, whether that's to buy down your rate or to in lieu of inspection cost or to pay down your closing costs. And so knowing the average concessions per week is super important, because you can get an idea of, hey, on average, this is what a seller's paying for a buyer's closing costs. And that'll kind of give you a benchmark of what maybe to expect in the market in regard to being able to negotiate on your behalf when it comes to a concession. And as you guys can see, the start of the year is a little high, and then it improves for sellers, right? The amount of concession gets less. So sellers, that's what I'm saying, springtime, great time to sell. You have a ton of leverage in here, and the buyer demand tapers off. And as you get into Q3, Q4, those concessions go right back up. So you know what I'm saying, buyers? That's your time to buy. Sellers, this is your time to sell in the springtime. So know what concessions are. Now, for sellers, you gotta know what rates are doing. As we saw in here, one of the conclusions was that mortgage rates are still declining. What does that mean? How does that impact you as a seller? Well, if mortgage rates are declining, two super important things, and I didn't share my screen there, but mortgage rates are still declining right here. Man, did I not share my screen the whole time? I'm so sorry, guys. Let me show you this again. Here's what we were talking about at concessions, okay? This is the amount of concessions per week. And then we were saying listed contract days on market. Here's the graph we were showing, okay? So when we look back at rates, how does that impact you as a seller? Why is it important to know what rates are doing? Well, here's the thing. Say you've been on the market for 40 days, and you know that in that 40 days, rates have lowered by 0.5%. Okay. Well, then we can understand, okay, buyers, we know your numbers just improved. So your ability to leverage and push really hard on a concession to lower your rate, they still might need it. And they still probably will ask for it. But if we know rates are declining, we might be able to go back and say, hey, look, did you run your numbers? Because rates today are way better than they were last week and way better than they were a month ago. So like, you know, a $5,000 concession, you might be able to get that same movement in a rate buy down if you were only at $2,500. And so that gives you some leverage in negotiating contracts. Now, if rates are going up, you know, hey, look, this is getting harder for buyers. And that might signal you to a potential, hey, maybe we beat the market, knowing that if rates are going up, it's less affordable for buyers. And depending on the time of year, we might need to make a price adjustment now as opposed to 2 weeks. And what you want to do is you want to beat the market. Here's what happened in 2022. Sellers lost thousands, tens and thousands of dollars, because what was happening is the market was declining, okay? And so they priced here. Well, the market was declining in price. And so by the time they realized it and dropped price again, the market had already fallen, and they just kept doing that all the way down until they finally beat the market in price, right? What you want to do is if the market's here, right, you want to price here so that you beat the market to that price. And so these are all important indicators of what's going to put you in a position of power. Sellers, make sure you know what rates are doing. And then the most important thing, guys, the most important thing is even though we have incredible buying, even though we have incredible showing activity, inventory is also high. And so it's keeping that kind of supply and demand ratios fairly healthy and balanced. But what that means is even though we have incredible showing demand, you're not getting as many showings as you might think. And so it is going to feel slower. And that's the whole reason we have days on market here that's above 2024 and 2023, even though we have more buyers in the market. Well, that's because we just have more inventory for those buyers to choose from. And so overall, it's a slower market. And guys, that is the absolute reason you need to consider what's happening in the market before you make a decision to sell or buy. Because the reality is, guys, if you're selling and you're like, I'll just wait to, Q3. I could sell now, but maybe it's better because I see interest rates dropping to sell here. Okay. Like, up to you, but seasonal trends show even in a hotter market, you see the market taper off. Guys, this is when rates were 2 to 3%, right? A price appreciation, the market plateaus, and it kind of stables off. Again, this is the historically one of the historic markets where rates were at all-time lows. But even with that, you see the market taper off here. And so in a market where you have increasing inventory, okay, and we know that buyer demand typically tapers off and plateaus in May, June. Well, then if you wait to sell for Q3, Q4, instead of selling at, call it 763 or 719, you could be selling for 679, right? This is the average sales price per week in Denver Metro. So super, super important to know what's going on in the market as a buyer and seller. And, for buyers, just to give you a recap here, know what the days on market are and know what the average concessions are, so that as you go into negotiating with the seller, you guys have an idea of what the market's doing, how that impacts you, and what to do about it. And then, partnering with a high-level agent is only going to help you ultimately negotiate on your behalf the best deal and terms possible. And seller, same thing goes for you guys. If you can't time the market because of life circumstances, that's okay. What's most important, regardless if you're pricing in the prime, the heat of the market or not, is just knowing what the market's doing in general, so that you can adjust your pricing and marketing strategy accordingly. And ultimately, that's going to help you sell for the most amount of money possible in the quickest amount of time possible, and ultimately get you the best terms you possibly can in any given market. See, the reality is, guys, as a seller, if you're pricing based on the prime selling season, but it's Q3 or Q4, like, good luck. You are likely going to be one of the many who start too high and fall down this slippery slope of pricing reductions because you got it wrong to begin with. Guys, if we just hone in on the data and understand what the market's doing and position you properly according to what the market's doing, you guys, again, are going to be in a position to save or make tens and thousands of dollars. And if you don't adjust your strategy according to what's happening in the current market, that could cost you thousands of dollars. So with that, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please do me a favor. This goes a long way in helping me grow the channel, and like the video. And if you haven't yet subscribed, we've got weekly updates for the Denver metro market coming out every single Wednesday, along with other videos such as community tours, truths about Denver, the pros and cons of moving here and relocating, how to sell your home and upgrade into a new home. We've got all the types of information you guys need to set you up for success for your real estate needs. And again, I am a licensed agent here in Colorado. All of my contact information is down below. Feel free to call, text, or schedule a actual call with me at the link below. And I can't wait to connect with you guys. Thank you for joining me. I hope you found some insightful